and welcome to About Books. On the latest edition, I speak with award-winning author Jane Costello about her new book, Summer Nights at the Moonlight Hotel. Later in the show, we meet Gill Torres and learn about her children's book, The Girl Who Could See Stories. First tonight, Jane Costello. Jane is the author of 9 successful novels, including Bridesmaids, The Wish List, The Time of Our Lives, and her latest, Summer Nights at the Moonlight Hotel. Jane was a newspaper journalist before she became an author, working on the Liverpool Echo, the Daily Mail and the Liverpool Daily Post, where she was editor. She's won several awards for her books, including the Romantic Novelists Association Romantic Comedy Award, which she took home in 2010 for The Nearly Weds. I spoke to her recently about her new book. Hello, I'm here with Jane Costello, who's the author of Summer Nights at the Moonlight Hotel. Hi Jane, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Latest.
It is.
And when was this published? Just very, very recently.
Oh yes, a week and a half. 24th of March,
literally
basically.
Warm.
Yes, it is. It is. Yes, we've had the first reviews so far. No sales figures yet. So yes, it's all very, very, very early.
For people who haven't read it yet, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, Summer Nights at the Moonlight Hotel follows the story of 3 lifelong friends, Kate, Emily and Lauren. And they are lucky enough to live in one of my favourite places on earth, which is the Lake District. And they've been friends forever. And really, they kind of they find themselves in a situation where they're all newly single, and they're looking for a way to spice up their weeknights, really, and just get together once a week and have a laugh, basically. And one of them spots a card in the window of a florist shop in Ambleside, advertising these salsa dance classes. And they decide to go for a number of reasons. They're all newly single and want to get together once a week. They're in their early 30s. And but for Lauren, who's the central character, the hotel itself holds all sorts of lovely memories, very precious childhood memories, because her father, before he died, was the general manager of this hotel. So, it's a pretty kind of special place for her. So they start these salsa dance classes.
And you took classes, didn't you, to get a sense?
I did. I had to do that. But yeah, they start these salsa dance classes, and very early on, without saying too much, there is this revelation that starts a whole kind of chain of events that really ends up causing them to question all sorts of things that they hold close to them, and
and it also
their friendships,
some cracks in their friendships, I was going to say as well, which are quite interesting, and different moral judgment systems, because I don't want to give too much away either, but one of them has a kind of makes a series of moral choices, let's just say, which the others don't necessarily
absolutely
back, and that's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a book about friendship and loyalties and secrets. There are lots of secrets in this book that come to light, and really, as you say, leave some of the characters with some real choices about everything they hold close to them. What
I liked is the fact that the female friendships continue, even though choices have been made that people don't agree with.
Yeah.
It's like the longevity of friendship.
Yeah, it's not a sickly sweet take on female friendship. Although all my books have got a set of friends, and it's a real theme in all my books, female friendship. But it's not a sickly sweet take on it. It's not kind of it's not a Sex and the City type take on it either. It shows the kind of bumps in the road that we encounter with our friends, and the fact that sometimes, but not always, you come out the other side and your friendship is stronger. It's not that's one of the things. This is a love story, but as much as it's a love story, it's a story about friendships as well. It's a story about relationships of different kinds.
And though there is the classic kind of love element to it, with 2 potential male suitors for Lauren, and a whole host of other male characters that are interested in their friends and come in and out of their lives, you've also got a great deal of love for the area, the local area of the lakes too. And I think that the hotel is very central in that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about space.
Yeah, well, I kind of fell in love with the Lake District. I've
lived
been
there?
no, I've got a little holiday place there that my dad and I have, basically, that and I go with my kids, and
It feels like you really know it.
I do really know
weather
it.
as
I
well.
do really know it. Oh, I've seen the ups and downs of the, I've
Yeah.
taken the rough and the smooth of the Lake District, no question. I've been there in the depths of winter, and also when it's been glorious in the summer, and sometimes the other way around, actually. But yeah, it was 3 or 4 years ago we got this place there, and it's just, so I'm there kind of probably 10 or 12 times a year, and absolutely love it. I can genuinely say, of all the places that I've ever travelled, and I've done quite a lot of travelling over the years, the place where I personally feel happiest is the Lake District. And there's something about the kind of clean air and the mountains and the lakes, and the fact that you can be in a kind of hive of activity or in total solitude, all within a walk of each other. I absolutely love it there. And so writing this book was genuinely the most enjoyable writing experience I've had since I began writing a decade ago. Definitely.
I think your delight in it does come across.
Yeah, it was genuinely joyous. It really was.
Lovely.
I think sometimes, I find I'm perfectly willing to say it. I find writing very hard. Sometimes there is this popular conception that, if you write popular fiction, if you write commercial fiction that sells, basically, it's something you knock out in a few weeks, and something because it's easy to read, that it must be easy to write.
That's so not the case.
And it really, really, well, it certainly is. I can only speak from my own experience, but it isn't. I spend a lot of time crafting my work, and a lot of time putting an awful lot of thought into making twists, coming up with twists. It's like putting together and unpicking, the world's most difficult jigsaw sometimes. It keeps me awake at night, it really does. But I think, and I've written a couple of books that have been really, really mentally hard going. I found it very difficult to write because I kind of spend so much time crafting every sentence and trying to make... There's a lot of humour in it as well, and
but there is quite a deal of sadness too.
Exactly, and it's getting that balance and keeping the pace and the pages turning and all the rest of it.
Do you use the term chick lit when you refer to yourself?
Well,
because one of the things I do in my job as an academic is I consider that genre very much worthy of study at academic level.
Yeah, well,
I'm trying to reclaim the label.
Well, that's interesting you should say that, because it has become this term of abuse over the years. And
it's like, what's your problem?
when I first started 10 years ago, my first book was Bridesmaids, and I kind of pitched it to publishers as, I'm a chick lit author, I want to be a chick lit author. And it has, when Bridget Jones was written, that was kind of the term that was used, and people were perfectly happy with the term. But it has become, unfortunately, this term that's used for books that aren't worth much.
You shouldn't take seriously.
That you shouldn't take.
I think that's nonsense.
Well, I don't want people to take. I don't want readers to take my books too seriously. All I want is readers to enjoy them, basically. That's genuinely the case. I really want people to turn the last page, and I want them to have cried and laughed and loved it.
And not want to put it down.
And not want to put it down.
I've got to tell you, that works.
Good.
That works for me.
Good, that's lovely to hear. And yeah, so the term chick lit has become this kind of very dismissive term to basically throw at things and say, oh, it's only chick. It's always now, it's only chick lit.
It's a way of running women writers down in particular.
Well,
I think we've got to resist that.
I absolutely agree with that, because I think comedy, in particular, when you in the written word, it's. It is a kind of issue to do with female fiction, this, I think, because, you look at some of the criticism that Helen Fielding's had for Bridget Jones, the recent one. Also, yeah, exactly.
Series.
It's kind of, the typical criticism that's levelled at these type of books is, well, it makes it look like all women are silly, Well, nobody ever said that about Del Boy in, he's not representing all men, so why would one character represent all women?
No.
It's humour, it's comedy, it's supposed to be funny. So it is a bit of a shame that it has taken on this kind of awful, kind of negative thing. These days, my books these days are very different from the ones I wrote originally. When I wrote Bridesmaids, it really was kind of full of jokes, and it was pure comedy, and it was very, very, it was meant to be fluffy, and it was meant to be very light-hearted. And
I don't think this is like
no, it's undoubtedly evolved, because although there is unquestionably it's full of comedy, but there is also, there's a very strong emotional storyline, backbone actually throughout the whole thing.
On capitalism, I think, too, on the way in which places like the lakes are being developed, and on the way in which old and new industries are trying to coexist. That's
in this particular book. That is one of the strands. But I think that it's the emotion really that it's that kind of emotional backbone that has really changed over the years, and become absolutely central to the books. Whereas the comedy is kind of the tone of it, I suppose, but really it's the emotion and the relationships that are kind of important. Whereas I suppose what I did at the beginning was really kind of very much focused on the jokes and the comedy and the, a bit of slapstick, and they're just different, really.
Well, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us about it. So that's Jane Costello, everybody. Summer Nights at the Moonlight Hotel. The Girl Who Could See Stories is the first book written by local author Gill Torres. The Girl Who Could See Stories is a picture book that inspires children to love themselves and the planet by choosing a healthy plant-based lifestyle free of animal products. It's described as the shortest autobiography ever written, with a few magical twists. Gill, an experienced writer and editor, has lived this story and continues to live it every day by being mindful about what she consumes, its effect on her body, and how her choices impact on the world. We caught up with her recently to find out more.
Delicacy Stories is a children's storybook. It's also a tool for parents and educators who eat in a similar way to the way I do, who want to be mindful about what they consume and want to explain to their children why they live the way that they do. There's not an awful lot in the space that I found when I was looking into it that helps people to explain to their children why they want them to live a lifestyle that might be slightly different to the way that other people live. So it's a gentle way to ease children into the ideas of thinking about why you would buy the things you would buy, why you might choose to eat a certain way and not to eat other things. It's essentially a tool that gently eases children into the idea of mindfulness and empathy.
One day, she went into town with her dad. They passed two ladies who were laughing loudly with tears rolling down their jolly faces. "What do you think they're laughing at?" her dad asked. In that instant, the girl could see the joke. She could see that the women were old friends having fun. They had danced together on many holidays and walked to school side by side long before that. Their life stories opened up before her like the pages of a book.
I decided to write the book. Essentially, the book just came to me as an idea. I was attending a storytelling event in Liverpool, and we would go every week and we'd stand up and tell stories for adults, and it came to me in that way. So I wrote it as originally as a story for adults, a spoken story, and it just lent itself to being illustrated, and it's simple enough for children to understand. So it's actually not specifically a children's story, it's more of a parable that looks into the ideas of mindfulness and ethics, but it lends itself to being illustrated. And then I found Ilan, who's an incredibly talented illustrator, and he characterised it and put some lovely illustrations to it.
Hi, I'm Ilan Sheedy, and I'm an illustrator and animator, and also the illustrator of The Girl Who Could See Stories. Jill approached me, it was a while ago now, but she approached me with the concept of the story, and I really liked the idea of a girl who could see stories, because as somebody who's illustrative, I tend to think that way anyway, so I can wait a minute if you want.
Sophia and her dad headed to their favourite fast food restaurant and took a table by the window. As they filled their tummies, they watched the people go by outside. She could see their stories too. There was a man running for the bus. There was a lady cycling to work who had travelled all over the world to interesting places. People hurried up and down the busy streets, and she could see every story every journey they had ever taken.
So The Girl Who Could See Stories is exactly that. It's a book about a little girl who has the ability to see the story of everything she looks at. So if she looks at a piece of fruit, she can see where it was grown and who grew it. If she looks at a person, she can see their entire life story. And it just talks about where she decides to put herself in relation to the story she consumes. So it's not saying to anybody, you should do this, you shouldn't do this. Saying, if you could see that everything you interact with, whether it's a person, an object, or a piece of food, has an entire backstory, wouldn't you want to feed yourself with happy stories? And then it goes into how well she feels as a result of only choosing to feed herself with happy stories.
She still took her favourite table in her favourite restaurant and looked out of the window. She still enjoyed watching the world go by as she filled her tummy. That is until one day she looked down at her beef burger and she saw its story. Her beef burger did not have a very happy story to tell. When she looked at it, she saw fear. In that moment, she realised that not every story is a happy one. She couldn't finish eating her burger because it tasted sad.
We raised the funding to print the book via Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding platform. The reason I didn't go to a publisher wasn't because I didn't think it was something that would be desirable to a publisher, but because I wanted to maintain artistic control of the project. I think that there are particular things that were of interest to me, as well as the key theme, which is around eating mindfully and eating a plant-based diet that's good to your body and good to the world and good to the planet. I also like to explore the theme of difference as the norm. So, for example, the dad in the story has got a sleeve tattoo and a green mohawk, and there are people of different, sizes and shapes and different looks and different styles in the book. And you don't get the artistic control as an author when you go through a publisher. So we decided to do it that way. Using Kickstarter was a really great experience, actually. I think it showed that there was demand for the product, firstly, because, like I say, there aren't very many books in the vegan space. So people really got behind it. We sold pre-orders, and then the people were aware that they would pay for a pre-order, they would receive a signed copy, assuming that we got to the total. That meant we were able to then produce the book, which we did easily, actually, which was really, it was a really nice thing that so many people got behind it. It meant that we then had, numerous pre-orders, and we were able to complete the project and do it in a bit of an innovative way.
She wished she couldn't see these stories. What would she eat now that she knew how unhappy the food around her really was? Without an answer to her question, she found herself at the market facing a bunch of ripe bananas. The bananas had been grown in a beautiful country with the sun on their skin. Their story was of rich soil and a happy farmer who loved his job. I have to eat something, she thought, so I'll eat one of these bananas. They have been brought into the world with love. Bananas don't have a family, so they couldn't have been taken away from it. And they've never known fear.
For the Kickstarter campaign, the way Kickstarter campaigns work is you have to have quite a lot of incentives. So I was very happy to provide original sketches and concept drawings, and there was a few people who actually had caricatures done, and there's actually a few people who were put in the book as well. There was a section in the book where I was able to, as an investor in the project, you've got to be a character in the story. So yeah, there's some nice little things that we did for people.
The girl paid for a banana, but she still felt a bit guilty because she knew she was going to end the story. Before she peeled it, she said a quiet thank you to the fruit. She thought it was the least she could do since it was going to fill her tummy. And then she gobbled it up. The next morning, and she caught her reflection in the mirror, the girl had a fantastic surprise. What she saw there looking back at her was more than just her own face. She saw the banana. It wasn't banana shaped anymore, but its energy was definitely there, shining back from her clear skin and healthy hair. So it wasn't actually gone either. In time, she didn't just see the stories that her food told her, she began to feel them too. She realised that the stories of happy foods didn't end as they went into her body. They became the energy that she needed to create her own story. Do you know what else she discovered? As long as she was thankful for it and grateful to the people who had grown it, the food was happy to become part of her story. So her tummy, as well as her head, was filled with happy tales. Sophia began to wish that everybody could see stories, because they wouldn't want to eat sadness if they knew it was there, would they? That is how she realised that it was very important for her to see stories, and even more important for her to share them. Now, everywhere she goes, she tells people her story, so they can find out where their food comes from, be grateful for the wonderful world for providing it, and fill their tummies with happiness too.
Jill was very, very kind of clear that, obviously she's very passionate about eating healthy and vegan foods and stuff like that. And the process of making the book, she was very adamant about making sure she got like vegan-friendly printers to work on it. So I started feeling really bad that I was only part of the process that wasn't vegan. So day one, the second I started drawing, we agreed that I was going to be vegan for the duration of the project, which was difficult but fun at the same time. And I've definitely discovered some interesting foods. So yeah, I'm really glad I did it. But yeah, 6 weeks vegan. I learned that I need to plan how to eat better. You can't just be spontaneous and just grab things off a shelf when you're walking past a shop. You have to plan your meals. And yeah, so it has to be more of a conscious effort to eat healthier rather than just kind of bounding through life eating whatever snacks you find on a shelf.
Thanks for watching About Books. We'll see you next time.